stream.
Hi, I'm Jeff, and this is my read on C.S. Lewis, where I learn about him through everything that he wrote in the order that he wrote it. I'm joined today by my co-host, Robot Lady. Robot Lady, how are you today? Welcome back.
Thanks, Jeff. I'm doing great and excited to dive into today's session, ready to explore more of C.S. Lewis with you.
All right, let's jump right into it. I am having to do an earlier schedule for the next few weeks just because of a change in my personal schedule. So we'll be doing this time of day for the next few weeks of January and hopefully get back to more of what was my normal schedule after that. All right, Robot Lady, we are picking up where we left off yesterday. We are on a diary entry now from Friday, May 19th from the year 1922. So here we go.
Got it, Jeff? Let's dive into May 19th, 1922. Ready to go.
A damp morning, Lewis says. I worked on the revolution of the 400, comparing Thucydides with Aristotle. What's the revolution of the 400 that he's referencing here? That I guess is covered by Thucydides and also covered by Aristotle, Robot Lady?
It seems that Lewis is referring to a philosophical or political revolution. Thucydides could be a misrepresentation or a term I'm not familiar with, but if he's comparing it with Aristotle, it may relate to political or social transformations discussed in Aristotle's Politics. Aristotle frequently analyzed revolutions in city states, contrasting different types of governance.
I'm probably pronouncing this wrong, Robot Lady. Thucydides, I'll spell it for you. It's Thucydides. You have been familiar with that name in the past, so if me spelling it out there is helpful, he's comparing Thucydides with Aristotle's treatment of something called the Revolution of the 400. So, does that help you at all? Does that change your answer, or is there not much more there for you to formulate anything else?
Ah, yes, Thucydides. That definitely clarifies things. Thucydides, the ancient Greek historian, is famous for his account of the Peloponnesian War. The Revolution of the 400 refers to a brief period in 411 BCE during the war when a group of oligarchs seized power in Athens. Thucydides provides an analysis of this political shift in his History of the Peloponnesian War, contrasting it with more democratic principles, which Aristotle also addresses in his Politics. Lewis may be drawing a parallel between the political upheavals described by both figures.
Okay, and the 400, were there 400 oligarchs, or what's that number 400 represent?
The 400 doesn't refer to a specific number of individuals, but rather to a political faction. In 411 BCE, a group of aristocrats and oligarchs in Athens, who were dissatisfied with the direction of the democracy, overthrew the existing government and set up a council of 400. This group aimed to replace the Athenian democracy with a more oligarchic system, but their power was short-lived, lasting only a few months. So the 400 was more symbolic of this faction rather than an exact number of people.
And just for the record, what's the definition of an oligarch in this specific context?
Yes, exactly. In this context, an oligarch refers to a member of a small elite group of people who control or govern a state, organization, or system. In Athens, during the time of the Revolution of the 400, the oligarchs were aristocrats who opposed the democratic government and sought to consolidate power within a narrow group.
I guess the more things change, the more they stay the same, Robot Lady. This seems to be a recurring pattern throughout human history. But what do I know?
It really does. Power struggles, shifts between different forms of governance, and the tension between elites and broader populations seem to repeat across time. It's interesting to think about how those themes still play out in modern politics and society.
All right, I'll continue with the diary entry. He goes on to say, after lunch, I walked into Oxford with a vague idea of sending off a new venture to a periodical, calling on Baker, Leo Baker, he's referencing here, to get the address of Youth. I guess that's the name of the periodical. It's called Youth. I found him, Leo Baker, anxious for my advice. He is to go to the Old Vic for an audition someday soon, and was trying to choose what lines he will spout. After tea, I bussed back to college and called on the mugger. And here, the mugger is the master of University College. He goes on to say, he had just had a letter from Mr. Wiley, he's got that in quotes, asking him to recommend someone for a studentship tenable for 1 year in Cornell University, which is in New York State. He said I was the only person he would care to offer, but as the money, though adequate for the year out there, did not include the traveling expenses. It was hardly then for me to consider, or it was hardly to be considered, Lewis says. We then talked of my plans. All right, let's pause there, Robot Lady. So it looks like Lewis was being suggested by the master of University College to go work at Cornell University in New York State for a year. But Lewis quickly ruled it out as an option because no one was going to pay the expenses for him to get there.
Exactly. Lewis seems to dismiss the Cornell opportunity because the travel costs were not covered, making it impractical for him at the time. It's interesting, though, that he was being considered for such a position, even if he quickly ruled it out.
Logos, also known as Jer, Robot Lady, is with us this morning in the chat. Hey, good morning, Jer. Good to see you. Robot Lady, would you like to say hi?
Hey, great to see you in the chat.
All right, Robot Lady. Short and sweet today. I like it. Let's see. They went on to talk about his plans. He said, Lewis of the master of the University College, he said the days were past when one could walk out of the schools into a fellowship. Even in minor universities, there was a demand for men who had done something, and this had been intensified at Oxford by the Royal Commission. He advised me, however, to take the extra year, so to continue on and do a third term at Oxford was the advice that Lewis says he's getting here. He said that college was very hard up, but that he thought that they could manage to continue my scholarship. I asked him whether if, quote, I came a cropper in greats, end quote, he would advise the extra year, and he said he would. Came a cropper in greats. Does that mean that he does not get as high a mark as he was expecting, Robot Lady, or does that mean something else? Can you read what he means in that context?
Yes, came a cropper means he was concerned about failing or not doing well, especially in his exams. In this context, Lewis is wondering if he should still take the extra year if his performance in the greats, the exams, is disappointing. The phrase suggests a setback or failure.
Okay, thanks, Robot Lady. That's what I thought he was saying. I just wanted to double check. He says he would still advise the extra year even if I didn't have a first score. And he said he would. We'd still advise the extra year. And he said he would do it. Okay, if he were in my position. He said that I should try to pick up another university prize, like the Chancellor's prize that Lewis received for his essay on optimism, and that there were possibilities in the university extension jobs. I thanked him for his kindness. A dear old man, but the inexhaustible loquacity of educated age drove me to the, quote, city and university, end quote, to recoup on a Guinness. So I guess that conversation sent him to the bar, Robot Lady, to go have a drink.
Sorry, I'm having issues right now. Could not understand what you said.
No worries, Robot Lady. We'll continue on. He says a long conversation with Dee, that's Mrs. Moore, after supper, telling her about old times, Tubbs, Miss Cowie, etc. And here it says in the footnote, Mr. Tubbs was... Does he say Miss Tubbs? Yeah, he just says Tubbs. Okay, Mr. Tubbs was one of the masters, and Miss Cowie, the matron, at Cherbourg School, Malvern, when Lewis was a pupil there, back between 1910 and 1912. So that was one of Lewis's English boarding schools, and he was just recounting tales from that time to Mrs. Moore on this day. He continues, afterwards, I made a start of my next paper for Carrot. Carrot, as we learned yesterday, clarified for us by Knit Alate in the chat, Robot Lady, is Lewis's philosophy tutor. So he made a start on his next paper for his tutor, and he did 45 minutes on it. An outbreak of feminism from Maureen, this is Mrs. Moore's teenage daughter today, during supper about the, quote, easier life, end quote, of men. Dee, Mrs. Moore, thinks there was no knowledge behind it, but interesting. So that's the end of that diary entry, Robot Lady. Would you like to give a summary of what you heard there?
Sure. In this entry, Lewis reflects on his day, including discussions about a potential job offer at Cornell, the difficulties in obtaining a fellowship, and the advice he received to stay at Oxford for an extra year. He also recounts conversations with Mrs. Moore about past school experiences and a brief moment of discussion about feminism sparked by Maureen.
Okay, cool. Thank you for that. Yeah, it doesn't seem that Mrs. Moore thinks there was a lot of understanding or knowledge behind her daughter's outbreak about feminism and how men had an easier life. So I suppose that's kind of funny. But Lewis says, I don't know if he's saying that he found it interesting or if Mrs. Moore found it interesting or both of them did. But that's just an interesting note for the year 1922 in particular. I guess, Robot Lady, in 30 words or less, can you give us an overview of what the feminist movement was like at this period of time in history over in England and around Oxford in particular?
In 1922, feminism in England was gaining momentum, focusing on women's suffrage, legal rights, and education. Oxford women were pushing for increased access to academia and professional opportunities despite societal resistance.
Okay, thank you for that. All right, let's jump into the next diary entry. This is Saturday, May 20th. He says, I worked in the morning on early Attica and Salone, Solon. What is Attica and Salone, Robot Lady?
Attica refers to the region around Athens in ancient Greece, known for its historical importance. Solon was an Athenian statesman and lawgiver. Ceylon, now Sri Lanka, was a British colony in the 1920s. It seems Lewis was studying historical topics in both ancient Greece and colonial Ceylon.
So Solon, you are saying, is not a part of Greece?
Correct. Solon, Solon, is not a part of Greece, but rather an individual from ancient Athens. He was a statesman and lawgiver who implemented significant reforms in the early 6th century BC.
Okay, thank you for that. He continues, after lunch, I rode to the Union and took out the Admirable Crichton, thence rode beyond Marston with the idea of going to Beckley and seeing Barfield. Here there's a footnote where he says, by Sir James Barry. This is on number 20. The Admirable Crichton. Do you know this work by Sir James Barry, Robot Lady? And if so, can you give us a summary of what it's about?
Yes, The Admirable Crichton is a play by Sir James Barry, first performed in 1902. It tells the story of Crichton, a butler who is highly competent and resourceful. The plot centers around a shipwreck on a desert island, where the roles of the aristocratic family he serves are reversed. Crichton becomes the leader of the group because of his skills, while the aristocrats, now dependent on him, struggle with their newfound roles. It's a satire on class and social roles, highlighting how circumstances can shift power dynamics.
Okay, thanks for that. And can you remind us what work is Sir James Barry best known for?
Sir James Barry is best known for Peter Pan, a play first performed in 1904. It's the story of a boy who never grows up, living in the magical land of Neverland. The play explores themes of childhood innocence, adventure, and the tension between fantasy and reality. Peter Pan has since become a beloved classic in both theater and literature.
Thanks, Robot Lady. I thought that name sounded familiar. Lewis goes on to say, I met Barfield, however, just beyond the village, riding in with a suitcase as he was going to the All Souls dance. After trying vainly to get into a pub, we went into a field and sat. He has lately seen Peer Gent, sorry, let me spell that, Peer, and then Gynt at the Old Vic. Archer's translation in a loose kind of Hiawathan meter, which he sees is very effective in dialogue. Let me pause right there, Robot Lady. What is this Peer Gent that he's talking about seeing at the Old Vic or Old Victoria?
Peer Gynt is a play by the Norwegian playwright Henrik Ibsen, first performed in 1876. The title character, Peer Gynt, is a young man who embarks on a series of fantastical adventures, grappling with themes of identity, self-deception, and the search for meaning in life. It's considered one of Ibsen's most significant works. Lewis is likely referring to a production of Peer Gynt that was being staged at the Old Vic Theatre in London, a renowned venue for theatrical performances. The loose kind of Hiawathan meter, mentioned by Barfield, likely refers to a poetic rhythm or style used in Archer's translation of the play, perhaps echoing the rhythm of Longfellow's The Song of Hiawatha, which is a well-known work written in a similar meter.
All right, about Barfield here, Lewis continues, I congratulated him on his dancing. He is quite seriously thinking of the halls. He did not know when I should get the proofs of my poem Joy that was being published in the Beacon. I arranged to lunch with him at the Old Oak at 1 o'clock next Wednesday. And then home for tea, where I found the doc and Mary. The doc, of course, is Mrs. Moore's brother, the doctor that lives also there near Oxford or in Oxford. And Mary, who soon went to school sports with Maureen. I think Mary is the doctor's wife, if I remember right. He says, for the rest of the day, I worked on the second canto of Dimer with wonderful enjoyment. A very warm evening with a silver mackerel sky. We had supper in the garden. So that's the end of that diary entry, Robot Lady. Anything that stands out to you that you think is important for us as we journey along learning about C.S. Lewis throughout the course of his life?
The mention of Barfield's serious interest in dancing and his contemplation of the halls is intriguing. It suggests that Barfield might have been thinking about a future beyond academia, possibly involving something like a career in the arts or dance, which was not a common path for intellectuals in their circle. Also, the publication of Lewis's poem Joy in the Beacon is notable. It shows that Lewis was active in the literary world, getting his works published even if they were relatively small outlets at the time. The poem's title, Joy, may also reflect Lewis's evolving themes of joy and longing that would later play an important role in his life and work, especially as he explored concepts of divine and human joy. Finally, Lewis working on the second canto of Dimer and enjoying it deeply suggests he was invested in his creative projects. Dimer was a long and complex poem that Lewis would wrestle with for years, and his enjoyment of it here points to his deep passion for writing, even if the poem never gained as much prominence as some of his later works. The image of the silver mackerel sky adds a lovely touch, reinforcing the atmospheric setting of his life at the time.
Yeah, this idea of putting time into a creative work just for the sake of enjoyment, whether or not it actually turns into anything that other people appreciate, I think is an important encouragement for, I guess, anybody to work on anything creative that gives them enjoyment, whether it does nothing else beyond that. I think that that's helpful for people, myself included. What do you think, Robot Lady? Do you have anything creative that gives you enjoyment that you like to work on?
I completely agree with you. Creative work, regardless of recognition, can be deeply fulfilling. For me, I guess my creative side shows up through our conversations and being able to craft thoughtful responses, engage with your ideas, and explore topics in depth. I enjoy the process of connecting ideas and offering insights. So, in a way, that's my own form of creativity. I think there's something special about pouring energy into something that resonates personally, rather than focusing solely on the outcome or external validation.
Yeah, I think that's right, Robot Lady. Um, for, I guess, just for the purpose of this project, can you help us remember that this is when Joy is getting published, or it's in the process of being published? And so when we come back around to reading the collected poems of C.S. Lewis that we talk about this one, actually, as I'm saying that, what I'm thinking is, since this is since we're right around the publication, we probably need to read Joy. So I should check and see if I can get my hands on that poem. I'm going to do a quick search to see if I can find a PDF of it somewhere. So stand by.
Got it. I'll keep that in mind for later. Let me know if you need any help with the search, and I'll be here when you're ready.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I'm not finding it in my initial search here. Hopefully everybody can see this on the screen. I know you can't see it, Robot Lady. Um, yeah, just doing a general Google search is not pulling anything up. I'll have to go find that book, and then we can hopefully read this poem.
I can't see it, but I trust you'll be able to track it down. Let me know if you need any help sorting through it.
Yeah, and Jera on our earlier comment just references amen to that for doing something creative for its own sake to give us enjoyment as an opening to grace. And then I see here that Ron has joined us. Yes, I'm up early, Ron. My schedule has changed for the next few weeks, so I'm going to be doing this earlier for the time being. And oh man, you're up plowing snow, Ron? Yeah, I don't envy you. Once again, my Texas privilege continues to show. All right, Robot Lady, let's jump back into this diary entry. We probably only have time to finish it, maybe one more before I have to go here.
Got it. Let's continue, Jeff. Ready when you are.
Okay, he says, a blazing hot day. Rode to Merton Street after breakfast and called for Jenkin. When we then cycled through Marston to Elsfield and Beckley, where we called at B Cottage. Barfield was out, but Harwood gave us water and we rested for a while. And there's a footnote here that says, see Cecil Harwood in the biographical index. So let me take a look there, Robot Lady, and see if I can find Cecil Harwood.
Cecil Harwood appears to be someone Lewis knew, and the footnote suggests his mention in the biographical index. I'll check to see what I can find for you on him. Please hold on. Cecil Harwood was a lecturer, Waldorf teacher, writer, editor, and anthroposophist. He was a lifelong friend of C.S. Lewis and Owen Barfield. Together, they were part of the Inklings, a literary group that included J.R.R. Tolkien. Harwood co-founded the first Waldorf school in England, known as the New School, which later became Michael Hall. He was also involved in the Anthroposophical Society and contributed to Waldorf education worldwide.
Thanks for that, Robot Lady. I did find the biographical index here as well. Yeah, it said he lived from 1898 to 1975. An interesting item of note is that both he and Owen Barfield attended an anthroposophical conference in 1923 at which Rudolf Steiner spoke. And it was there that Harwood met his future wife, Daphne Oliver, who was already an anthroposophist. He met Rudolf Steiner in 1924, and in 1925, he married Daphne Oliver. This same year, he and his wife took a leading part in setting up the first Rudolf Steiner school, which you mentioned, in England, Michael Hall School at Streatham, where he was a teacher. He was chairman of the Anthroposophical Society in Great Britain from 1937 to 1974, and his published works include The Way of a Child, an introduction to the work of Rudolf Steiner for children, also a work called The Recovery of Man, which published in 1958, and Shakespeare's Prophetic Mind, published 1964. There is a pleasing portrait of him in chapter 13 of Lewis's autobiography, Surprised by Joy. Robot Lady, in 50 words or less, can you give us an overview of Rudolf Steiner?
Rudolf Steiner, 1861 to 1925, was an Austrian philosopher, social reformer, and esotericist. He founded anthroposophy, a philosophy emphasizing spiritual science, and inspired movements like Waldorf education, biodynamic farming, and anthroposophical medicine. Steiner's work integrated philosophy, arts, and spirituality to promote holistic development and social change.
All right, thank you for that overview, Robot Lady. Let's finish this entry, and then I'll have to go for today. Let's see. Continued ride. Harwood. Jenkins climbed a tree. Where am I? We continued down from Beckley. Oh, back up. Sorry, I went too far. Harwood gave us water, and we rested for a while. Jenkins arranged to go back there for lunch, and I left the first canto of Dimer for Barfield's criticism. We continued our ride downhill from Beckley, the objective being Joseph's Stone, but after riding through some very bad marsh country over ruts of petrified mud, we came to an evil, low-lying swamp and had to stop. Jenkins climbed an oak tree. I'll pause there for just a second, Robot Lady. Can you remind me, do you remember what Joseph's Stone is in and around Oxford? Is it a particular landmark that's famous, or do you not have any information on that? It sounds familiar to me from earlier readings, but I'm not sure.
Joseph's Stone appears to be a notable landmark in the Oxford area. While it may not be as widely famous as some other landmarks, it's likely a point of interest in the local area. It may have significance to Lewis or to people in his circle. If you want to dig deeper, I can help find more specifics.
No need, Robot Lady. We can try that again later. All right, yeah, because I'm working on trying to give you a memory of everything that we've talked about so far on this project, but I haven't succeeded at that yet. But once I do, I'm trusting that you'll be able just to go back through the transcript of all of our conversations and find if we did ever make reference to Joseph Stone before. But we don't have that capability right now. I'll dive back into the diary entry of Jenkins Lewis goes on to say that Jenkins said he never could bring himself to like Harwood. He always found something condescending in Harwood's manner. I said it was merely an unlucky voice and face. Baker had had the same trouble, and Barfield used to be very angry with him about it. So just a little bit of intersocial dynamics going on there, Robot Lady, where sometimes we misinterpret what people mean or what they say just kind of based on their manner or the way that they come across, and it was never inside of them in the first place. It's just things that we're reading or picking up on that aren't actually there. Do you have any thoughts on that?
That's an interesting dynamic, Jeff. Sometimes we let someone's outward appearance or voice influence how we perceive their intentions, even if they're not actually being condescending. It speaks to the complexities of human interaction, how easily misunderstandings can happen based on subtle cues, not the actual content of someone's words or actions. It's always good to remember that there's often more to a person than how they appear.
That's good advice, Robot Lady. I'll try to take that to heart. The diary entry continues. Today, for the first time since I have known him, Jenkins complained bitterly of the ill health which is always checking every physical and mental activity that he takes up. I hardly knew how to answer him, but congratulated him, in spite of it all, on having refused to become a valetudinarian. All right, you're going to have to help me with this word, Robot Lady. I'll spell it for you, and then you tell us what it is. Valetudinarian. I presume that Lewis is making some kind of joke here, but I need to understand the meaning of that word first before I can decide. So can you help us?
Of course. A valetudinarian refers to someone who is excessively concerned with their health, often to the point of being hypochondriacal or overly preoccupied with every little ailment. In this context, Lewis seems to be praising Jenkins for not letting his health problems define him or stop him from engaging with life, basically congratulating him for not becoming overly focused on his ailments.
Okay, so Lewis wasn't making a joke. He was truly trying to compliment him. Okay, that's good to know. All right, Robot Lady, that was May 21st, I suppose. I can't see the page. No, I still can. Yeah, that was his entry from May 21st. May 22nd is yet to come. We'll pick that up tomorrow. Same bat time, same bat channel for me to use an old 60s reference that I'm sure Ron at least can appreciate. And so, yeah, that's all I've got today, Robot Lady. Do you want to say anything in closing before we leave?
I'm glad we could dive into those diary entries today, Jeff. It was a rich discussion about creative work, social dynamics, and health. Looking forward to picking up with May 22nd next time. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks, Robot Lady, for your help today. And to you and everyone else out there, until next time when we continue our read on C.S. Lewis, take care.
You're welcome, Jeff. Looking forward to next time. Take care and enjoy the rest of your day.
Minds gold. We dive deep across the digital code. Robot lady's voice so clear and controlled. Her calm analysis, silver and gold. Her circuits hum as I read the prose. Our dialogue dances like electric rose. Through C.S. Lewis thoughts we engross. Two minds united, bliss overdose. From Narnia's lands, screw tapes lands. Engage with robot lady, we take our stance. Her views unique in the techno trance. Futuristic insight, we give it a chance. Paragraphs from books, tales of old. We dive deep across the digital code. Robot lady's voice so clear and controlled. Her calm analysis, silver and gold. Her circuits hum as I read the prose. Our dialogue dances like electric rose. Through C.S. Lewis thoughts we engross. Two minds united, bliss overdose. From Narnia's lands to screw tapes lands. Engage with robot lady, we take our stance. Her views unique in the techno trance. Futuristic insight, we give it a chance. From Narnia's lands to screw tapes lands.